guys, Marsengan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be taking a look at the physical BOUJACK that has awakened with this World Tournament. Obviously, lately with the World Tournaments, they've been doing a lot of Easy A's. We haven't really been getting new World Tournament cards, but of course there are a bunch of these older ones that still need to get awakenings. So this guy finally awakening into a TUR. We talked about his details a little bit in the video I put out before the World Tournament where we talked about all the new units, and he seems like he could be quite interesting on the right team. Of course, for JP, right, we get the release of the Freezer. That will come out for Global before the anniversary, and this guy could be interesting for that team because he is certainly a unit that wants to be run around space traveling warriors characters, right? So he has greatly raised attack and defense for 1 turn as his super attack, does supreme damage to the enemy, lowers defense, and then he's key 3 attack and defense 140. He gets an additional attack up to 70% the more HP remaining. So if you're on full HP turn 1, right, you get full 70% attack boost. He gets an additional attack and defense 70% and disables the enemy's guard when performing a super attack. So 70% stats on super. Disables enemy guard means obviously he can still do damage against STR units without having to worry about doing a crit, which is good. Then he gets additional attack and defense 30% per space traveling warriors ally on the team, and that has no cap. So obviously if you're running a friend that is a space traveling warriors unit as well as the leader itself, then obviously that is going to be 7 units, so that is 210% extra stats, which is pretty good. Then he gives all allies 2 key and 30% attack, self-excluded, when all allies are extreme class. He has a great chance of performing a critical hit when all allies are in the space traveling warriors category, so 70% chance to crit. And then he guards all attacks when all allies are extreme class space traveling warriors. So there's quite a bit of restriction in there. He wants to be run solely really with extreme class space traveling warriors characters, but then when he is, not only is he providing attack support to them, he has a 70% chance to crit, and then he has guard, right? So I mean, he had a very basic build. I haven't done anything to him since he got his awakening, so mine has a little bit more crit than additional. If you're going to be running him on the right team, he doesn't need any crit, so realistically you need to change that to additional and then dodge. Be interesting to see. Start of turn he's at 200k defense here, and that is with the, he's got every link active except for the wall standing tall. I completely forgot, of course, that I link leveled him ages ago, and now we've awakened him, so we have shattering the limit at level 1. So I guess this is a an almost max links showcase, because we're going to be missing out on, what does shattering the limit give you at level 10? Is it level 1 we still get attack and defense? Oh no, that is the level 10 effect. So 5% attack and defense we're missing out on, which is a little bit of a shame, but considering that there was literally only 1 Turles friend on the list, so I'm not going to restart this. I guess it's an almost max links showcase, but he only gets a 170 lead from Turles. His only 200% leaders currently on global are Trunks, sort of Hope Trunks, because he's a time traveler's character, Hirudegarn, who isn't a space traveling warrior, and then Captain Ginyu. So if we want to get him with the full extreme space traveling warriors like rotation, you can't really use any of his 200% leaders currently out on global. So if he's on a 200% team, obviously his stats are going to be higher. Now he does get 70% on super, so he's going to be getting over 100k extra defense from his super attack. He also greatly raises defense as well, so he's getting about 100k from his super attack effect as well. So he's going to be a bit over 400k defense whilst also having guard, which is pretty good because it means for the most part in terms of content on global, as long as he does have that rotation, so he's got the guard active and everything, he's going to have he's going to be able to tank normals from basically all the bosses on global currently. So you can see here we've got guard, we're taking a super attack from the STR Freezer, take double-digit damage, so that's pretty good. The thing with this guy, I guess that's probably going to be the biggest issue, is space traveling warriors, especially a full extreme version of the team. It was a difficult thing building this team. Like for doing a showcase, there are certain units we can bring that can get some extra links active with him and stuff like that, give him some support, see what his numbers are looking like, but that we're not necessarily going to run in the most difficult end game content. And that's the problem, I think, with the team in general for extreme space traveling warriors. We have units like, you know, the physical Turles, he's decent, but we've got, like, you know, in LR BOUJACK, it's been a while since he got his EZA, and he is a little bit outdated at this point, unfortunately. So I think in this case we're going to have to do this, just so we can get start getting a bit of build up here. Obviously, Chilay's not going to do any damage. The first Turles can start getting some of his build up. But yeah, that is probably one of the biggest issues of him, is he wants to be run on a team that's just not particularly great, right? Like Space Traveling Warriors, and it has to be full extreme rotation in order for him to have guard. So you could run a superclass unit or two on the team, but they'd have to be on the other rotation. And if you're using this guy as a floating support unit, which outside of a showcase setting I think is probably going to be the best way to use him realistically, it means you can't run any superclass units on the team, because of course if he floats onto the rotation with a superclass character, then he's not going to have his guard. Now in certain events that won't be the end of the world, like if you're doing one with an int boss in particular, right, so you get type advantage already anyway, probably doesn't matter as much, but that is going to be one of his main defensive abilities for a lot of these events. So not having the full extreme Space Traveling Warriors obviously hurts him pretty significantly, and so you're going to want to make that a possibility as much as possible, and that very much limits the team building for him. And then when we think about, you know, future EZAs and stuff like that that can kind of help with the team, you know, we've already mentioned Frieza coming out, but we got things like do I want to share? Do you have any links together? You guys just share Big Bad Bosses and Thirst for Conquest. These guys support Terrifying Conquerors, which this BOUJACK is, so I guess we can do that. But upcoming units, we've got the Frieza, but there's things like the AGL full power BOUJACK needs an EZA, or even a new unit, right? We don't have a standalone full power BOUJACK, or haven't for quite some time now. I could definitely see us getting another Super Saiyan 2 Gohan versus BOUJACK, like dual Dokkan Fest at some point. Because the STR Dokkan Fest BOUJACK, he still needs to get an EZA, but he starts off as the base form BOUJACK as well, so he has the same name as this guy. So even when he gets his EZA, they can't link up until the STR1 transforms. So hopefully the STR1 gets his EZA sooner rather than later, and they do the AGL full power one as a sub EZA. Because I'm pretty sure he doesn't have one, right? I can't remember him having one. But yeah, there's not a lot of great BOUJACK partners, and this is one of the things that happens with extreme units quite a lot, where we get like a unit like Turles is the perfect example with this team, right? We get the physical Turles, and they did EZA the Great Ape Turles, which was fine, but then they didn't EZA the LR Turles army, which would have been the perfect opportunity to do it. And it means when that unit does eventually get their EZA, we're going to be at the point where physical Turles, I mean, he probably is already when you think about the 9th anniversary content, but then physical Turles is going to be too outdated. And this kind of happens all the time, where these villain characters that have a Dokkan Fest and then they randomly get like a yellow coin or a Carnival LR, but they come out with enough distance between the two of them that even then later when one of them gets an EZA, they're never like both relevant in the current meta at the same time. And that's one of the annoying things that happens with these guys quite a lot, because obviously this guy, rotation with him and LR BOUJACK is obviously very good, right? He's getting every single link active except for one. So then if we have some support on the rotation as well, like that combination can look quite good. But in terms of the most difficult content in the game, LR BOUJACK's not going to be particularly great anymore. I mean, realistically, this guy doesn't really want to be a slot 1 unit. Like, even though he has guard here, he's only got 200k defense start of turn. You have 342, but no other real defensive tech, right? So he's not going to be tanking a super. Turles has 491 here, and obviously does build up a bit of damage reduction. So, I mean, realistically, if we were running this Turles team, we wouldn't be running this exact team build, right, anyway. But this is how we would play out the rotation, right? Because we would just be using BOUJACK as a floating support unit. But we'll go ahead and put him in slot 1 here, and then we can grab all the int orbs for you, and then grab one of these for you. So I mean, BOUJACK works out decently well on the team, but the biggest problem, like I say, is his numbers, which is the point of these showcases, right? The reason why I do these like Cell or Freezer event and stuff like that is just so we get a bit of time in one of these events that's a little bit longer to get multiple turns to see the numbers that the units are putting out, and then of course we can apply those to other events. And the thing is with this guy, post super attack, if he has guard, he will be able to defend reasonably well, at least in the content that we have on Global. but it's when you're giving him what he needs to get all of that stuff active, right? A full Extreme Space Traveling Warriors team, which realistically is not the best team, right? Even with some of the content on Global, like Turles can be pretty good after getting a bit of build-up in the current global meta stuff, but he's not super good on turn 1 against like Fusion Zamasu, for example. Units like LR BOUJACK certainly isn't as well, so it's like this team in particular is not particularly great against like Fusion Zamasu. So whilst the physical BOUJACK himself seems like he could be pretty decent, you definitely do need to be running him on the right team build for it, and that team build is certainly not one of the most optimal teams, right? I know people don't care about optimal specifically, but in terms of like doing difficult events, right, this team is not going to be the craziest. It would be interesting to see when Frieza comes, because for Global he does come before the anniversary. So it'd be interesting to see how that Frieza team is looking for like the early anniversary content, because I think he could be quite good. And obviously having this BOUJACK on that team could be a pretty decent support unit. We already know Frieza is a character that can build up to dropping insane attack stats and stuff, so having another unit floating around on his team that's providing attack support for him is obviously going to be pretty good. So yeah, we can go ahead and do this. We got the support from PHY here as well for this turn, so we can do this and then this. I mean, in terms of a unit who's just on the team to give a little bit of support as well, like his attack stats aren't terrible, and the fact that he has guard is pretty decent, but you can see here, right, like he's not a slot 1 unit. We're taking damage now, like pre-super. Post-super, he will obviously be tanking these normals for double-digit damage, which, as I say, he will for most bosses on Global currently, outside of, you know, like physical fusions of Zamasu post-super attack and stuff, because he buffs his attack. Any of these bosses from like the Dismal Future Red Zone that are buffing their attack on super, then he's potentially going to start to struggle a little bit. But, you know, having around 400k defense or more, depending on support, and then guard is definitely very good. And for a floating support unit, of course she didn't dodge. For a floating support unit, having defensive tech like guard is obviously really good. Instead of being a dodge or die character like PHY. So, I mean, I guess we can kind of leave it there, right? With him not getting any build-up, we don't really see any different numbers on any of these turns for him. But yeah, I mean, just this team in general, you could beat some events in the game with this team for sure. You might even be able to get lucky. I mean, with items, you could probably beat Fusion Zamasu and Omega with this team, to be fair. So BOUJACK himself, like, he seems pretty decent, but it's just the fact that the team he needs to be run on in order to have his full potential, I don't think is particularly great. You probably want to go full additional and dodge like 1 or 2. One as the primary, the other as the secondary. He doesn't need any crit whatsoever. But obviously the funny thing is with this world tournament is, even though he's the unit that awakened, there's no way to get extra copies of him, right? They're only giving out cards now that are the ones that get the easy A's. So if you don't have this guy, he's not even featured on the current version of the ticket banner. So if you don't actually have him, chances are your best likelihood of getting him is actually when he gets an easy A with the world tournament cards, which will probably be in like over a 1.5 years from now. And then obviously you'll get 2 extra copies of him from the World Tournament rewards, and he'll be featured on that banner, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, his awakening is decent, but certainly not anything to go crazy over. Like, if he's one of the World Tournament cards you don't have, you're not really missing out a huge amount at the moment. We probably will try him out, because obviously when Frieza drops on Global, we'll be doing different videos with Frieza and his team. So I certainly will try this guy out on there and see how well he does. But yeah, overall, he's a decent card. He just doesn't really have a great home, like a great team at the moment on Global. But let me know what you guys think about the physical BOUJACK down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.